And when they asked me that, I said, you know, I have a sales training company, right? And they were like, what are you talking about? And so I went to my briefcase, I pulled out my LLC, my tax ID, my book, I pulled out everything. And they were looking at me like, when do you have time to do this? I said, don't worry about that. Do you want me to train them? Yeah, because it wasn't what I was doing, it was how I was doing. And that's what I teach. It's not what you do, it's how you do what you do. Not what you say, it's how you say what you say. And there were a lot of people saying the same things, but it was how I was saying it. And I tell everybody this, everything is selling. You're either selling a product, an idea, service, or an opportunity. And so what I do is I teach every business from A to Z. I don't care what type of business you have, because I went to every dealership from A to Z. Acura, Buick, GMC, Chevy, Honda, Ford, Toyota. I've worked at every last one of them. Every last one of them I went to, they asked me to train the salespeople. They're like, I don't know what you're doing or how you're doing it, but I want you to teach the other people to do it. But the problem was, it's difficult for me to teach them because a lot of people don't know, if you don't pay for something, you're not going to value it. And that's what was happening. The people that pay attention. The people that pay more attention. And that's what I had to figure out, because I'm sitting here wondering, like, this stuff works. Why aren't they using it? But what happened was they weren't paying for it. See, if you give a kid a car, they'll go wreck it. He didn't work for it. At McDonald's all these years or whatever he did. And so I had to figure that out, and I had to put that in my business. So now I don't go in for free. I'll do a free presentation, and then they'll sign a contract. Then I'll go in and I'm saying, hey, this is what I charge. And I'm not cheap, because you don't want something cheap. And so the people that I meet, they go to my website, look at my prices. They're like, man, I said, yeah, this is not just for you. I said, I have different prices for individuals, but companies, my minimum is $1,500, and we go up. We go all the way up. But what most people don't know is these companies, they look at $10,000, $5,000. That's not no money to them. You know what I'm saying? But I have something where I want y'all to look at this if you have a business, because this will definitely help you. If you're charging, you don't want to have just one fee or one price or one way. I charge a one-time fee, a monthly fee, and a month-to-month fee. So they can pay one time, they can pay month, and they can cancel anytime, or they can pay for the whole year, and then it's month-to-month. But it's prorated. You can't just cancel it. So these are things I had to figure out going, along my journey, going into places. People would say no, then I would start charging and wondering what's going on. And so I had to figure it out. And I'm not going to go too deep into that. But that actually changed my business once I started doing that, because one thing I learned is you want to give people options no matter what. You want to give them options. If you give them one, they say no, and then you're done. It's one and done. You don't want to do that. And so what I figured out is when everything is selling, and that's why I titled the book, How to Sell Yourself, people buy from people they like, know, and trust. And that's what I was doing with these people. Another thing what happened was, it's a phrase I always use, when you become interested, you become interesting. And so I became interested. When I was working in Atlanta, I had doctors and lawyers I was talking to. So when I talked to this doctor, and he was a brain surgeon, a heart surgeon, I would talk to him about the brain. Just ask him question and question and question. I didn't even worry about the car. And then what happened was, what took my career to another level, when I met another doctor, I would talk to him more intelligently. Why? Because I sold this previous doctor that I asked him 1,000 questions. And so what happened was, he was like, how do you know so much about the brain or heart surgery or whatever? And I tell him, I wouldn't, beat around the bush. I would tell him, well, I sold a doctor and we had a conversation. But the thing about it, what they really got was, I was genuinely interested. I wasn't being interested so I could sell you something. It wasn't about that. And they knew after I sold them something, because I kept in contact with them. But I developed a system. It's just like she was talking about McDonald's. Why is McDonald's so successful? Well, McDonald's has a system. And that's what business is. It's people, process, and systems. Once you have a system, the system works. You have high school kids working at $1 billion company, but they have a simple system that they learn. And guess what? They use it over and over and over. Ever since I was 4 years old, McDonald's is doing the same thing. What's your order? Well, give me the kids combo. You give them the money, they give you the drink, they give you the food, next. They still doing that same system. Why? It works. We're not trying to take a wheel and make it rounder. The wheel works. Let's keep using the wheel. And that's what you have to understand and implement into your business, is delegation and automation. You know what I'm saying? You delegate certain things to certain people, plus don't forget to develop them, and then you automate it. See, in my business, everything I have, all my 6 websites, They're online, they work. My book goes out, boom, people buy it. I just market it. And then we set the marketing up where it's automated. Now I hired a marketing team. I signed up with Universal Records. They own Ingram, which is part of Ingram Sparks. Everything is automated. I don't have to do anything. Now I was working on the audio book. Guess what? That's going to be all of the streaming sites. I don't have to be out there with a bullhorn and this. You have to use technology. That's why it's here. But most people, the problem is they don't believe that they can do it. They don't believe that people are going to buy from me. Well, you got to put something out there like they want, because I teach what's called attraction and target marketing. So what I do in my business, I don't call anybody. The majority of the time, I get phone calls. And that's how I developed my sales training system, where I was at the car dealership and people were calling me. Other salespeople were just standing there because they didn't know anybody. They didn't know what to do. So they started coming to me, Tim, what are you doing? How are you doing this? And I took that same concept and I just figured out how to apply it to any business. And what I had to do was build up my mind or my mental muscle. And when I built it up, what I tell people is this: I've been in the automotive industry almost 30 years, 3 decades. If you take a human being and you send them to the gym for 8 hours, 7 days a week for 28 years, and they're working out for 8 hours, 7 days a week, how would their muscles look? Huge. Guess what? I did the same thing with my mind. I work on it all day, every day. Like I tell people, I stick with like a stamp until I get there. I just do the research and understand that selling is everything. So whatever you're selling, I can sit down with you and I will blow you away. I've done that with so many companies. And then they refer me to other companies. Hey, Tim, we want you to come over here to the college. And then I'm speaking there and somebody else say, hey, we want you to come to the church. That's the way it works. It just snowballs. And so with this COVID, it kind of slowed us down a little bit because we were working on the virtual part, but we were still working on, doing coaches and meetings at hotels and mentoring and things like that. So that kind of slowed us down. So now we just had to regroup. Now we're going fully virtual until everything opens up. But let me tell you something. Right now, and everybody knows it's the best time in history to start a business, to do whatever you want to do. And if this COVID-19 haven't woke you up, I don't know what to say. Everybody's sitting at home. We all know about Social Security not going to be here. Whatever's going on with these unemployment checks, dude, I don't want to on that $600. You got to be kidding me. $600? Come on, man. We got to put our minds way up higher and understand you can't attain that, especially right now. Especially right now. I don't care what you want to do. But you have to understand is, like Warren Buffett said, the best class he ever took or course was a Dale Carnegie course in sales. You know what I'm saying? If you listen to everybody, you ever watch Shark Tank, one of the first questions they ask you is what? What are your sales? It's one of the first questions they're going to ask you. And you come out there with a low number, you've been business this long, or you ain't made this much profit, you're out of business. You see what I'm saying? And I love what Tony Robinson, with his new book, he said, man, you create a cash machine and make sure it works while you sleep. It works 24 hours. Just create a cash machine. And that's what I've done with all of my websites and everything I'm doing. I just create it, put it out there on the internet, and just let it work. You know what I'm saying? You don't want to do the work. Like J. Paul Getty said, I'd rather have 1% of 100% than 100% of my own. You know what I'm saying? But there are so many people that are struggling still because they playing with the internet. This phone that we have, man, this used to be $1 million computer way back in the early 70s. All the technology is here.